When I was in New York for the first art show I ever curated, me and my fiance went to the MoMA. That was my first time seeing some of the most incredible paintings by famous artists like Picasso and Van Gogh. One painting I saw, while not being my favorite, did change the way I view art. It was a Jackson Pollock, and in high school we had learned about him and we had seen his works on the projector, and everyone thought the same thing. Oh, it's just a bunch of splatters of paint. I could do that. I myself, being one of those kids, found myself standing in front of this massive painting, just completely shocked at how powerful it felt. You see this painting in person and it's just huge, and the paint is very thick and it's all across the canvas. It's a beautiful work to look at, and you can feel the artist's emotions just fill the room as you stare at it. The artist we hear from today is named Adam Riches, and his art is similar to Pollock's in the sense that it's powerful and it hits you hard. His works feel sometimes overwhelming and then other times calming. They pull the emotions out of you and force you to be present. I'm your host, Jacob Johnson. This is the My Art Is Real podcast, episode 8, Adam.
Yeah, my name's Adam Riches. I'm from Suffolk in the UK, and I paint, oil paint and draw mainly.
So you were raised in Suffolk?
Yeah, I'm originally from Ipswich, a town in Suffolk, which is in the sort of east of England, south east, about an hour away from London on a train. I grew up here, and it's there's a lot of it's a kind of Suffolk's quite rural. There's a lot of farmland and quite close to a river, the River Orwell, which is in the which goes out to the North Sea. So there's plenty. So although it's kind of a urban town, there's quite close to nature, and Suffolk's really beautiful actually. Where my studio is out in Suffolk is really, really beautiful place, and a lot of people go on holiday there, and yeah, it's a nice place to be.
Growing up there, what was life like? What'd you get into?
Well, I come from a working class background. Looking back on it, I mean, at the time, I guess your childhood is you don't really have anything to compare it to. But then when you grow up and you hear other people's experiences and you kind of compare it, I'd say that the school I went to was kind of rough, I would say. And it's not a particularly, the area that I come from is not particularly affluent. So, I don't remember it being particularly encouraged creatively at school. And I really enjoyed art, and art was great, but it wasn't something that was really pushed. That's not the way I remember it.
And how did art come into your life exactly? Were you always drawing as a kid, or when did art kind of show up?
I think my dad's. My dad left when I was about 13, I think, and like my memories are very sort of pattern. I don't have really a lot of memories of my dad being around. I mean, I remember little bits, but I do remember that, and he was a little bit unsettled, and he wasn't particularly the best role model, if I'm honest. But I do remember that he drawing with him, but a very, very early memory of drawing from history books with him. And he was quite a bright guy, and he was a creative guy. If he was a little troubled, but he was creative, and he could draw pretty well. I actually have some of his drawings somewhere in a folder somewhere, but I think I definitely got that creativity from him. And then, I have memories of. So that was a positive memory I have of him, is drawing with him, and I don't think it can be underestimated how much small things when you're younger, something like that, somebody introducing you to something like that, carries on in your life. I wholeheartedly believe that you kind of, when you're really young, you kind of copy what you see, don't you, and not so much what you're told. I was told to behave, I was told to do various things that I didn't do, but I kind of copied the things that I saw rather than. So I think that him being creative with me did has lasted on. So yeah, I mean, then he left. Then my mum kind of worked really hard to provide for me and my brother and sister. She had more than one job.
Sometimes we don't like to look back to the past. But it's when you do that you can often find the reason you have certain behaviors or are drawn to certain things in life. Adam doesn't have a lot of memories from his early childhood, but the one of his dad is very important to him as it's the start of his art journey. Another thing that Adam does remember is being quite an unruly child and running off to get into activities that most 13-year-olds shouldn't be doing, like drinking and smoking with older kids.
As in friendship groups, we'd go and ride motorbikes and stuff in the woods, and go fishing, drink, smoke cigarettes, do things that we probably shouldn't have been doing at that age, but it was kind of normal. We didn't have much, we didn't have any money, and we just kind of made our own entertainment. It was a little crazy, but it was some fun time. But I think we sort of grew up a little bit faster than I think I did anyway, and a lot of us grew up a little faster than we should have done. I think, looking back on it, maybe they're really like, my sister was really well behaved. Like, me and my brother were but my sister was really well behaved, and they both, my brother's really, we've grown up to be more or less normal functioning adults and stuff. But my brother was my sister's kids now. They're really well behaved, and I look at her youngest, and he's started high school. He's 11. I think, Christ, I was sort of, oh God. I mean, I think of when I was 11, 12. I mean, I was listening to like rap music I should not have been listening to. And I was, drinking and smoking and stuff. And I just think, thank God that he's not doing that. But it's only, but that when you're doing that, you don't really have anything to compare it to when you're that age, do you? You think, well, you don't really think about it. It's what's normal is normal. It's only when you grow up and look back in hindsight, you think, yeah, probably should have waited a few years before we started to do that. But
looking back on it now, Adam starts to realize how much art really meant to him growing up and how it was really the only positive encouragement he was getting at the time.
I think when somebody tells you that you're good at something, I now look back on this, like that has that little bit of encouragement. I think that has if somebody tells you you're good at something and you are probably, you are good at it, that just makes you want to latch onto it and do it, I think, especially when you're a kid. So I remember being at like primary school with being like 8, 9, 10, something like that, and drawing, and other kids saying, "Oh, that's brilliant, that's great," and like other kids saying, "Oh, will you do me one of those so I can take it home to my mum and say that I did it?" I remember someone saying stuff like that, and I think I did and now I'm thinking about it, I did a drawing of some elephants being pushed, and it won a prize. And it was put into like the National Gallery. I was only probably about like 9 or 10 or something like that. But I think a little thing like that gives you, like, I don't remember a lot of things from when I was at school, but I remember things when people have said, or times when people have said, "Oh, that was good," or gave me some encouragement in that direction. And I think the fact that I remember those things above lots of other things that were said to me, I think that sort of draw you towards that or push you towards that particular thing. But I mean, I drew from a young age. Then I think in high school I would have done it in art.
Adam would go on to tell me he didn't have very many aspirations in life. One big issue for Adam was he didn't have a good role model growing up that could help him find his calling and foster that creative outlet that he desperately needed.
Yeah, I don't remember there being a lot of aspiration or like thinking, oh, I could do that. I always thought everything else, it was a little bit sad to say, to be honest, but I always thought that everything else was for other people and not for me. I never thought like driving, for example. It sounds bizarre, like maybe because my mum doesn't drive and my dad, he didn't drive. But I don't know if it's just because of that. But I had other friends that were driving and they were having jobs. I just thought, it took me until like my mid-20s to think, actually I could do that. I could do that. It sounds strange. Maybe I am a little bit strange actually in that way. But like, I never even knew that I could aspire to do something like something that's quite normal, really, like not that. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of embarrassing to say, really.
When it came time to graduate high school and decide what he was going to do for the rest of his life or what the next step was for him, he had no idea what to do. He was even discouraged to chase his only passion, which was drawing and making art. It's a very tough time for him, as all of his other friends had dads and other role models that, they followed and in their footsteps and knew what they wanted to do. But Adam just didn't have that. He just thought things weren't for him.
I remember speaking to a careers officer or advisor when I was at school. I didn't do too well academically at school. I was kind of poorly behaved. And I guess a lot of young lads, young guys in my sort of peer group, we messed around and were quite unruly, I suppose. When it came to like the time when it was for the end of us to leave school, I remember having a chat with a careers advisor, and she said, well, what is it that you want to do? And I had no aspiration. I think that was one thing that I kind of that I look back on now, and I think that I don't remember there being any aspiration or any. Unless I missed it, I don't remember people having many aspirations to do anything, and I certainly didn't. I didn't even know that things like university, and I didn't even really think that they were available to me. When she said, well, what do you want to do? And I had no idea. But I had absolutely no idea. I didn't really have any sort of orientation with regards to a career or anything, which is kind of sad to say. But yeah, I mean, and then she said, and I said, well, I really like art, and that was the only thing. I mean, I think the last year of school, I barely attended school, but I said to her, yeah, I mean, I really like art. I used to go in for art. I mean, it was like a bit of a drop-in centre, really, in the last year or so. We just used to go in when we wanted to go in. But I'd go in for art because I really liked art and I really enjoyed it. And I told her that, and she said, well, competitive, and it's very it's not. She discouraged me from the one thing and she was only being honest, really. I mean, she was saying it's very competitive, and that you don't want to hedge your bets on that. But then if you've got someone who's not doing anything else, then you may as well tell them, well, I mean, at least do that.
I mean, imagine being told the one thing you really care about is probably too far out of reach. I mean, so what if the art world is competitive, right? I mean, because if you love something, you might as well try. Because if it's the only thing you care about, what's there to lose?
And then I think probably when I had the harsh reality of leaving high school, having not been entered for almost any exams and having no real academic prospects, I think when that hit me and I had to get a job, like a job screen printing in a factory, I think like creativity just seemed to fall by the wayside. I mean, I just kind of live for the weekends, really. I just get work, get paid, go crazy at the weekend, and then rinse and repeat through, like the first part of my adult life, really, which sounds like it's a complete waste, really.
Adam would go on to spend most of his 20s just working and hanging out with his mates on the weekend. While for some, that's all well and good, but for Adam, he felt like something was always missing from his life. And of course, that thing was art.
I rediscovered, I used to doodle. I mean, I used to doodle in the pub, like in the bar. They used to, like the beer mats, they have like these long beer mats. And they had I remember they had like these big white ones. They were like with lots of white space on them, and I was in the bar and I was doodling and drawing and stuff, and I'd done it all. I was like wasted with a load of mates, and I'd doodled all over these bar mats. And the next time I went into the bar, the guy said, the barman who recently taken over the pub said, "Was it you that drew all over the bar mats last week?" And I said, oh shit, he's going to make me pay for them, or he's going to throw me out of the pub. And he said, and I went, yeah, it was me. Sorry about that. I'll replace them. I'll pay. He went, no, that's right. He went, can I keep them? Can I have them? I went, yeah, I mean, they're yours. Yeah, of course you can do what you want with them. Yeah, you can take them. They're yours. But then that I think little things like that made me think, oh, yeah, that's pretty good. Like for him to want to keep them. But I didn't really think anything of it, And then it's like, and then I think somebody asked me, but they wanted a drawing of something or someone, and they asked me to do the drawing for them. And then I think that was probably my mid-20s, I think, and I did the drawing for them, and then I think, oh, I kind of enjoy this. And I kind of rediscovered it that way, and I graduated, and then that was how I got into the photorealism, and then that was then I did I started putting, do you know the site DeviantArt?
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I had no idea what DeviantArt was until I started doing this podcast, and it seems to be the way most artists started sharing their works online before Instagram came about.
Yeah, I started putting work on there, like the photorealism stuff, and like lots. It was like people saying, "Oh, yeah, this is great," and you get like some feedback from people and something positive, and then I think that gives you the encouragement. And then I was doing that for a few years, and then I thought. I got to the stage where I was doing a job that I hated, a menial, low-paying job. I didn't really. It's completely devoid of any satisfaction for me. And I thought, okay, if maybe I should try and do something with art. Maybe I should actually, I felt like I had nothing really to lose.
It was at this point that Adam just had enough. For him, art was an escape and a way for him to shake up his life. He had to put energy towards something he felt mattered and that brought him true joy. He didn't need to make a living out of it. He just wanted to do it for the joy that it brought him and to just get out of this rut he had dug himself into.
And then I thought, right, okay, I'm going to see if I can get a university. And I thought, the university, that's not for me. I genuinely thought that I wasn't able to go to university. I didn't even know why I thought that, but my girlfriend at the time said, just come on, we'll go to when they have an open day. There's a local university not far from me. It's about 5-10 minutes away. And we'll take your portfolio down there on the open day and we'll let them have a look at it and see what they say. And I went down on the day, and the tutor there on the fine art stand said, yeah, I mean, oh, this looks great. Maybe you should apply. And I thought, well, I said, I haven't got any I don't have the academic requirements to get in. But she said, well, it doesn't matter because you're a mature student. So they have an interview with you. I think you have to just make sure that you're competent enough to read and write, which I always was. I mean, I'm not stupid, but I just didn't have any academic qualifications. And she, and then I I applied, and they gave me the place. And I thought, this is great, So that was kind of like the beginning of me being not just making photorealistic stuff, but being sort of kind of gradually a step towards the stuff that I'm doing now.
Do you think it benefited you going to university at a much older age than, like, say, 18?
I'll be honest with you, I loved it, and I think if I'd have if I'd have done that, had that experience when I was 18 or whenever it is you go to university, 18, I wouldn't have appreciated it as much as I did when I was that age. Like there was a lot of mature students there. Actually, I wasn't the only one. I mean, there were some people that were much older than me. There was a guy who was 60 who was there. I mean, there was women. There was a couple of women who were in their 50s, and there was all kinds of ages. And then obviously there was some younger in their early late teens, but there were I mean, because you have some life experience, and you also appreciate that you also appreciate what you're doing. I think when you're 18, you don't, a lot of the students there were just wanted a party, and they didn't really give a shit. And I think I would have been the same at their age. And I think that doing it in my late 20s, 30 really when I started, I think I appreciate it because I realised I'd like what I'd missed out on, and I thought I'm going to make the most of this. I'm going to make the most of every minute of it. Really, I definitely wouldn't have done that when I was younger. I know I wouldn't have done. So yeah, it was great doing it as an adult. I think I got the much more out of it than I would have done.
And did university help you grow as an artist? Like, did it push you to try new things and experiment?
I think going to university for me, it wasn't like that to get the academic, the qualification. It was more to just put myself in a position where I'm just doing that, and let's see if I can give everything to that. and sit, and instead of just doing it, in the evenings as a hobby and putting it online. I think you might have even ended up carrying on doing the same thing over and over again, or still be doing that. But I think when you go to university and you're opened up to different ideas, different artists, different stuff that I'd never heard of before, like a lot of things that don't interest me, but a lot of things that do. And I think just being around that and sort of immersed in that environment where everything is about being creative, and it's actively being encouraged. It was like, it didn't feel like work. Like, I'd turn up to the studio, I'd be there every day, and I'd love it, absolutely love it, because I thought, I've gone from doing a job that I hated and I had to be there all day, going to something that I really love doing. Yeah, I mean, it was a completely different experience to be at university, and to not just to take what I was already doing and keep doing that, but like push what I was doing. Experimenting, I think, is the key word. I think it was the most important thing with that, was like experimenting with stuff that I hadn't done before, like photography and print making, projecting things and stuff. I mean, stuff that I don't necessarily do now, but I guess looking back on it, it makes you think about things in a different way, and you can kind of get stuck in your sort of linear little path of doing things, and comfort of doing things. And I think even if you're trying these things out and doing them, and it's not for you, it still gets you to think about things in a different way. So I think they're sort of invaluable, that really.
While in university, Adam would do a few art residencies around Europe and constantly be trying new styles. For a while, he was making very hyper-realistic drawings, but that takes a lot of focus and concentration and energy, and it's a very long process. Soon he would depart from that into the style he would work in now, which is more of a flow state, where he begins to draw these lines that are almost like scribbles and slowly finds the figure or the image within.
Yeah, well, I think when you see that stuff, I mean, even now I look at some of the realism that people do, and I think I still marvel at it, even though I know, like, I kind of have more of an idea of how people do it now. But I mean, people just take things to such a limit that it's difficult not to be in awe of doing it. But when it comes to the process of it, I think I know how long. I mean, I'd spend like 40, 50 hours on a sort of A4 drawing. And I just think the thought of doing that now, like knowing what, I mean, if wouldn't mind spending 40, 50 hours on something that I kind of didn't know how it was going to end up. You know what I mean? Like that there has to be that element of surprise, or that element of excitement that keeps my enthusiasm going in the process. I mean, I just think, no, I think once I've realized that I can do that, or I kind of know that I can do something like that, that's kind of like, I'm just going to keep going over and over and doing that same thing again. And yeah, it's just going to be like, it'll end up being like a 9-to-5 job, like you're going to end up resenting it, I think, eventually, unless that's something you really enjoy doing. But I think it's a bit of a tussle between the known and unknown. I mean, what that makes it interesting for me, kind of using some of the skills that you have, or that you picked up, your drawing skills, or painting skills, but having that little bit of like pushing it in a way where you think, well, it could either work or it couldn't. Like an order and chaos balance. I think like you have got to have some framework. I think my framework is the human figure or faces or something along those lines. That's the framework that I hang off. But then within that, the unpredictable element within the process. So I have something to work towards. I kind of know in some ways what the work's going to be.
So when did you start posting your work on Instagram, and when did that kind of take off?
I feel like I'm kind of lucky because things have just sort of fallen into place as I've gone along with that. I think at the time when I left, I was 33 when I left, and then I moved into the studio space that was in the same university building. And around that time, I had a girlfriend who had Instagram. I didn't have Instagram. And she said, "Oh, you should put your artwork on here." I didn't really know what it was. And I started to put my artwork on there, and it was like people really liked it and was positive. It was like deviant art kind of thing. But I guess it's not just people looking for art on Instagram. Is it all kinds of people? Obviously, it's everyone, or people from all backgrounds. It's not like deviant art is obviously more is art focused. But with that, yeah, so I started to build up a following with that, and then people started to said, are these for sale? These drawings and stuff, and yeah, I started to sell them a little like that, and then I met up with an agent who was just starting her business off at the similar time, and then she bought 5 of my drawings and said, "I'm going to do an exhibition. Do I have your permission to buy them and then sell them on and see how they go?" And I said, "Yeah, great." So I sold her the drawings, and she invited me to come along to the exhibition in London, and they all sold. And then and she had some other artists in there as well, and then I ended up working with her and selling my stuff through her exclusively. And she did a lot of art fairs, and she's all over the world. I mean, she went to Hong Kong, Singapore, Europe, US, New York, yeah, all over really. And that was really cool. And so yeah, I mean, that kind of it came along right at the right time, really. Like just as I left university, that sort of came along. That kind of yeah, worked out great.
And so do you remember selling your first painting?
I remember selling a painting when I was at university, and I felt so guilty taking the money from the woman. I just said, "I'll just give me enough to cover my materials." And the painting's pretty good, actually. Now I look back on it, I think that was all right. It's like a big oil painting, and I took like £50 from her. Like I honestly felt guilty taking the money from her. And that sounds crazy now. And she was like, "Oh, is that is that all you want?" I went, "No, it's fine." Honestly, like I thought, "Oh no, she's going to give me money for it. I can't take money for it." It's crazy, it's stupid, but that's how I felt. So I sold it for like £50, like a oil painting. Yeah, I mean, and then I sold like on Instagram. I never used to say that my work is for sale, and as soon as I said that, people were like sending me messages saying, "Oh, how much is this?" And I thought, "Oh, I missed a trick here." Like I just genuinely hadn't really thought about that. Like I just thought about this. I just love doing it, and I just do it. And then I thought, okay, well, yeah, maybe if you want to continue doing it, you're going to have to sell this stuff. And yeah, so it is nice. It's a compliment, isn't it, when somebody wants to buy, likes what you do enough to want to buy it. I mean, it's a really nice feeling.
How did you feel once you kind of started going to university and you graduated and started selling art? Did you have this moment of feeling just, wow, like I'm not miserable anymore? This is it. I finally, I've gotten out of that rut. How did you feel?
I do remember like having it was great when I did the actual BA, but at the end of it, and then when I thought, okay, now I need to monetize this, and like when I actually able to monetize what I was doing and actually sell the stuff, and I thought, okay, I can actually make it go. This actually gave me like a sense of purpose, and I think that was what I was missing before. Like I felt there's something I can do. I think I'm creative, but there's something I can do. There's something I should be doing, but I don't know what it is. And I'm just sort of floating through life, and it's just disappearing, and I'm not living up to any sort of any potential. And I think, yeah, not doing that is only from not feeling like that anymore do I realise how sort of miserable I probably was before, if that makes sense. I still so grateful that I'm able to do something that or just to have not even just for a living, but knowing that I have this. Like even if I had to stop doing this and I had to get another job, or I had to do something that wasn't this, I would never be able to stop doing what I'm doing, because it gives me a sense of purpose. I think it gives me an identity that I didn't really have. I mean, I'm thinking about this as we're sort of as we're talking about it, and I think, yeah, that's it gave me that. I thought, okay, this is who I am. This is who I am. Like when before I didn't really have that. I was just sort of floating through life, really.
Adam now spends his days creating artworks in a studio space, which is actually located on an old Air Force base. It's pretty cool. He no longer feels miserable and without a purpose. I always knew Adam's work felt very powerful. Within those lines, not only does he reveal to us the figures within, but he reveals his emotions and memories. And I think Adam's story is not only an example of how your surroundings shape you, but also a story about chasing your passion. And if you love something enough, you can make it work.
Looking back on it now, like I think not just for a job, but if you're a creative person and you're not creative, it can kind of make you a little bit miserable. Now I know that now only because now I am creative. I feel like the thing that I've had missing all my life is now there, or one of the things that I've had missing is kind of feel a little bit more complete. But it's difficult to know that, when you're young, and it's different. I had no real. I didn't realize that being creative is actually an important. And if you are a creative person, that not being creative can be a real problem. So I sort of learned that as now I do it now. I'm thinking, oh right, yeah, I kind of need to be doing this. Really, I can't really imagine not doing it.
I hope this episode inspired you as much as it did me. I want to thank Adam for coming onto the podcast and sharing this deep personal story for us. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with anyone you think would find it interesting. This episode was recorded and edited by me, Jacob Johnson. This is the Martyr Show podcast, and I'll see you in the next episode.